Hello and welcome back, and welcome to my software overview and sort of review of the software on the DS420j. For those that aren't aware, the DS420j is one of two budget series NAS devices from Synology released in 2020. I believe it was released at the closing stages of January 2020, with the DS2020j being released at the end of February. I've already done my software overview prior to this video on the 220j, and today I'm focusing on the 420j. Two very similar devices with really only a few differences. Now, let's get some disclaimers straight off the bat. First and foremost, if you are watching this video because you want to see exactly what Synology's DSM software is like, generally, this may not be the video for you, because this video is about showing you about what software is available on a budget series NAS. If you're looking to buy a more powerful Intel-based NAS, maybe some of the Plus series, then this isn't the video for you, because I do think by watching this, you're not going to get the right impression, because the Plus series NAS arrives at a much faster processing point. It can deal with a lot more functions at once and arrives with more applications. And that's kind of one of the main reasons why J series NASs are lower in price. So if you are looking to buy an Intel-based NAS, maybe stop watching this video now and watch one of my others. I mean, thank you very much for being a patron. Cheers for watching. But other than that, this is a video about budget series NAS, and more precisely, the 420j. Now, make sure you've installed the Synology Assistant tool, because this allows you to find NASs on your network. As you can see, I've got two here on the network already. That application will allow you, you don't necessarily have to have it if you know your way around networking, but it helps you for the very first time access your NAS. I've already set this NAS up for the first time and installed a hard drive inside. Looking at it, this is the DSM desktop accessed via a web browser right here. Now, throughout this video, I will be using OBS, so don't be surprised if the picture does sometimes lag a little bit, particularly during some of the video segments later in this YouTube video. So just be aware of that, and don't blame the Synology for that. That's me. Just keep your eye on this tab here, because this is the resource monitor. This will show you just how much of the Synology's power is being consumed by these tasks. Now, you may also notice that memory utilization is quite high. This device arrives with 1 gig of DDR4 memory, which isn't great, as I mentioned in the hardware review, because it does give you a bit of a glass ceiling later on. And Synology's NAS platform is actually one of the very best that you will ever use in terms of software. And one of the things it does better than anyone else is background caching. And a lot of the Synology will actually use typically more memory than it needs to when it's operating. So that means that the dedicated tasks that you're using can be just as good as they can be. And once you start using more tasks, you notice the caching being flushed in the background. So it may look like we're utilizing 41%, but really we're probably using a bit less, but it's actually using that area of storage for other things, caching within those apps. And what you'll notice is the amount of data being cached in the background and ultimately flushed and freed up will change despite us using multiple apps. So I'm going to leave those there, and hopefully they will be apparent throughout the video. Now, if you've never used a Synology NAS before, once you've set it up for the first time and installed the latest firmware, the first thing you're going to want to do is head over to the Storage Manager. And the Storage Manager is where you set up your hard drives, your RAID, your everything for the very first time. As you can see, we've got a hard drive installed inside this NAS, and I've used that drive to create an area of storage, a storage pool. This storage pool can be made up of one or more drives in a RAID environment. Setting up a RAID for the very first time is incredibly easy, and with multiple RAID options as well as Synology Hybrid RAID for allowing you to mix and match drives, it's that straightforward to set this device up for the very first time. Once you've set up your storage pool, the next thing you've got to do is set up a volume. A volume is where the data lives. Don't think your data lives on a storage pool. What happens is the volume is the storage container, which can be the full size of the available storage if you want the full size of the hard drives, or you can create multiple storage volumes that can be used for media, for surveillance, for business, for whatever. At the moment, I'm just using one giant container that's using all of the available storage. This took me almost no time at all to set up. And in fact, when you first set up a Synology NAS for the first time straight out of the box, More budget series NASs like the J's will set up a Synology hybrid RAID storage pool and volume straight off the bat for you without you having to try. Now, what are you going to do with this data? Well, first things first, head over to the file station, because from here, the NAS, if you set it up, if you choose the option during setup to have a lot of the files, folders and apps pre-installed, you'll already have your tree of folders here. But if not, it's really straightforward to create a new folder here. Click Create, click New Folder, very intuitive. If we create a folder there, this adds our new folder to whichever drive we are in. We can even move it around to other folders if we so choose. We can create copies of that file or folder, or just move it if we so choose. So now it's moved into this folder. It's that straightforward. But what if we want to create something a little bit more detailed? Well, we can go to the new shared folder. Now a shared folder is way cooler. This is creating a folder that lives on the main tree. This means this folder can be shared with other users of the NAS, as well as strangers via the network or the internet if you so choose. Creating a shared folder is that straightforward. So if we put in share, give it a location if we want, where on the NAS we want it to live. Do we want it to have a recycle bin? Click Next. From here we can encrypt it and give it a password if we so choose. I'm going to skip that step. Do bear in mind that encryption will lower will utilize a lot more CPU and memory. So we will continue to try and keep an eye on those areas there. From there we click Next, and it's that easy to create our new shared folder. It will add this new shared folder, and we can choose which of the users connected to the device has full or limited access. So read only means they can read it but not change. No access means that it's invisible to them. And read and write means that they can do whatever they want. With customized access, allow you to create very bespoke access systems for people that have got Synology access and accounts, such as family members, employees, bosses, clients and more. And I'll go through account creation later on. So now we've created our shared folder, which means that from the NAS top end, there's our share there. We can right click and we can share this folder if we so choose. This shared folder can also be utilized if we create a folder inside. This folder we can then choose to share with people via the network, the internet. We can create validity periods where it can only be accessed for a given period of time. You can even create 3D barcodes for systems that don't have keyboard, video, mouse entry to access the links you send. On top of that, not only are shared folders accessed by other users on the NAS or via the network or internet via a web browser, but the coolest thing you can do is use it to create a folder on your local PC or Mac system, so you can interact with the device directly and organically. Here's a 22J shared folder I set up earlier, but for now, as you can see, there are no folders for our 420J. So from here, we head back into Synology Assistant, find our 420J, and right-click and map drive. From here, we enter the login information that we created while setting up the NAS for the first time, log in, and from here, while making our way in, there's our 420J share. There you go, my typo, fantastic stuff. Click Next. Next, give it a folder. We'll call this folder T or mapped drive T. Click Next, review your setup, then click Finish. Make our way back into the PC option, and there's the T folder. And this means we can access this file and this folder, there's the share from earlier, we can access it now as we would in our Windows platform. And this works for Mac, it works for Android, and it works for iOS. Lots of ways in which to mount a NAS on your local PC system. While we're doing this, let's take another moment to look at the utilization. As we can see, things haven't changed a vast amount. The caching has decreased, but the free amount of memory has actually become more increased because of the caching being flushed. The file station is one of the many things you can do with a NAS. Before we go any further, let's take a look at creating multiple accounts. In order to do this, we need to make our way to the control panel, and from there head over to User or Groups. User lets us create individual users, so one by one. Groups allow us to create preset rules for groups, such as, again, family members, kids, parents, clients and more, and these users can then have duplicated user credentials and permissions set up en masse. But for now, let's create an individual user. Creating a user is really straightforward. Let's create a user called Betty. From here, we can generate a random password or give them a password that we want to give them. We can even add their email address, and with that email address, they can use that to authenticate their account as well as get a link to the Synology NAS. On top of that, we can move forward. Here, select which services we're allowing this user to use. We can then select which folders we're allowing them access to, and again, read-write access, read-only access, or no access. And from further on from there, we can assign them a certain amount of storage on the NAS so they don't use up too much space as they fill up the NAS with their backups. And finally, which of the apps they're allowed to have access to. Again, lots of credentials there, and with that newly created user able to access this NAS just like any other user via the IP address here and entering their login credentials at the default screen. But that said, that user I've just created will have far fewer options open to them on the NAS, and that's done on purpose. And remember, we can not only do that individual user, we can do whole groups, and the groups allows us to change permissions and access rights on the fly without the end users knowing we're doing it. Now, the second row relates to access. Traditionally, when you set up a NAS, you will do it over the network. This allows you to set the NAS up very easily for the very first time. But in order to access this NAS anywhere in the world, you'll need to set up both your Quick Connect account, which is a Synology service where you sign up to Synology and it gives you the ability to access your NAS via the internet. They won't go through your data, and all the data transmissions can be encrypted either manually by yourself using the options in the volume setup and storage pool setup, or using a VPN if you so choose. On top of that, going back, we can set up external access options and which apps have access to remote level access, which might be good for backups, but also multimedia streaming. From here, we can find out more information about the hardware we're dealing with and even survey and assign different attributes to USB connected devices such as printers, UPSs, external storage, printers, and more. Carrying on back to where we were, we've got options for individual applications where we can choose when we want them to index new photos and new content, as well as what their individual privileges are to the whole storage array. If you're worried about an app having too much access, you can curb their access here. On the subject of apps, let's talk about app installation. If we go to the package center, we can see the full list of applications readily available on the 420j. But it's worth highlighting that so far we have still seen the utilization in the background to be at quite a good level on the 420j. There are a lot of apps currently available, and there are some key big-end Intel apps such as Virtual Machine Manager and Active Backup Suite not available. But what we do have is still a great range of apps. I mean, straight away, the fact that we have got access to Plex Media Server cannot be understated. Plex Media Server for budget users, ones that want to stream to TVs, stream to home consoles and more. You will find it very appealing. The Plex Media Server is on this NAS. In order to install an app for the first time, you just have to click Install. And it will install that app in the background, as you can see. Some apps will allow you to install other apps while others are installing, but some apps are multi-part installations, such as the Synology Office application, which will ensure that because of its multiple tiers of requirements with regards to flash and more, sorry, living by the seaside, lots of seagulls, it means that you can install these apps, but you won't be able to install other apps in the meantime. In the background, as you can see, Plex Media Server is still downloading and installing, but we can carry on looking at what apps are available. Now, I've got dedicated videos to pretty much all of the key Synology apps, with a whole review and new apps coming when DSM-7 arrives. But apps I want to focus on the DS420j are as follows. Firstly, Audio Station allows you to enjoy all of your music on the NAS. It also integrates with applications for Amazon Alexa and Amazon Fire Stick, meaning that you can stream your multimedia audio to those devices via voice connection or via the network and internet, all using Audio Station. It allows you to create playlists and smart sort your albums a great deal better than most humans can do on the fly. Synology Calendar is an alternative to Google Docs and Outlook and other sort of scheduling tools in the wider environment, but allows you to use all of these tools on the NAS in the first party as opposed to the third party. And there's one key word I'm going to focus on in a bit, and that is collaboration. And Calendar is going to be part of that series of videos. Carrying on, Download Station allows you to download a multitude of different kinds of file. You can download torrents, you can download NZB, you can download RSS feed podcasts and more. You can even search for downloads here. Just do me a favour and stay legal and keep everything good for everyone else. Don't spoil the game, everyone. But it is an incredible application that can download up to 50 tasks simultaneously, all on a list and with scheduled tasks as you see fit. I personally download most of my podcasts every week, utilising tools like this. Moving forward, we've got Hyper Backup, and Hyper Backup's an important application on a NAS like the 420j. When buying a NAS that's this budget for the first time, it's worth highlighting that you will typically fall into two categories. The first category is you've not owned a NAS before, and as you can see, look at that CPU utilization spike. If you are buying a 420j budget NAS for the first time, you might be doing it because currently you use Dropbox and Google Drive and other cloud services, and you're just not really getting your money's worth. You're paying monthly fees and you're reaching the end of a contract or running out of space, and you've realised it's better to buy something physical that you own on the network where you control it yourself. But you don't have a lot of money to throw at the project. For those users, a J is a great NAS to go for. But at the same time, a lot of users buy a DS420j to back up an existing NAS system. They've got a powerhouse Intel NAS like a DS918 Plus, but they want to back up their files to another location to add another prong to their backup strategy. For those users, a budget NAS makes a lot of sense. You're not going to use a lot of the proprietary apps because all you care about is backups. And finally, you've got users that will buy a NAS like the 420j, enjoy it, but realise that they like NAS so much they want to invest bigger. And because this NAS is at a low price point, it's not going to hurt too much to upgrade sooner rather than later. Now, for all of those users that are either in a 2 NAS situation or in a bespoke NAS backup situation where they only need a low-level NAS, Hyper Backup is a great tool. It allows you to back up from the NAS to the USB, a Synology NAS to a Synology NAS, a Synology NAS to a USB multiply or with a schedule, or to a cloud service from Synology known as C2 Cloud. But more than that, you can back up to other NAS servers, other services via the network or the internet, and indeed back up to cloud services too, to migrate data to and from cloud systems such as Google Drive, Dropbox, and more, all using this tool, all of them on a schedule, and you can create multiple instances of multiple backups all at once. Now, moving slightly away from intensive backup ops, let's talk about key multimedia applications, because you users that go for the 420j are going to use a lot of media apps. For you guys, I recommend, alongside the audio station app that I mentioned, apps like Moments, which is a photo recognition and AI-powered cataloging application. Upload decades of photos into the Synology and allow Moments to not only do facial recognition and tag people for you to go through later, but will also recognize subjects like food, parks, grass, buildings, and actually search through your photo database without relying on the names of files, but actually looking at the content. The AI-powered Moments app will go through them. Photo Station is a far more traditional application for photography, allowing you to create bespoke portfolios, share your files and folders, and allow you to just browse through your photos in a far more intuitive way. On top of that, it maintains background information such as geotagging and the actual information stored on each file from the camera that took it, allowing you to get really, really deep with your media. On top of that, you can use an application like Video Station to create your entire video database. And with Video Station pulling information from sources like IMDb, it creates very pretty and very graphic-led user interfaces for you to browse all of your media that rival things like Plex, although this NAS doesn't really support transcoding in a meaningful way, so do bear that in mind. Now, I talked about collaboration earlier because that's a big deal on this device. Because a lot of you are buying a NAS for business needs. Maybe you're a small shop, maybe you're a small office, and you're using tools like WhatsApp, like Skype, you're using Outlook, you're using Google Mail, maybe you're using Google Calendar, or any of the other myriad of tools such as Office 365 and Google Docs. Ultimately, you're using third-party apps from different manufacturers that rely on the internet. The Synology presents you with alternatives to all of those tools that run on the network. That is to say, a closed system. So, for example, you can create, using NoteStation, a collaborative area where multiple users can share tasks and deadlines and assign jobs to different Synology users on the device. How do you do that? You can link to them in NoteStation or use Synology Chat to have real-time conversations with connected Synology users. And that is users on this NAS that can connect using a PC via the web browser, or they can use client applications, so download apps for PC, Mac, iOS and Android. These apps can connect via the network or the internet, and users can exchange messages, create chat groups and exchange files via Synology Chat. These files can then be opened in the Synology Drive application, with the Synology Drive application giving you not only pinned files and folders to your PC or Mac system, but on top of that allows you to have a one portal access point to your data. So if we open Drive here in the background, we'll be able to see all the files and folders on this NAS directly in front of us. With all of the files and folders ready accessible, it means that you've got that one portal access point that you get from Google Docs and more without having to worry about what to open it with, because on top of this, there's also Synology Office. Synology Office is an alternative to Office 365 and Google Docs that can open Word docs, PDFs, spreadsheets and more. And all of these apps work together both in the NoteStation collaboration area and over live chat, as well as utilizing the email tools so that all files and communication is in-house with file limitations on emails completely removed, because all the connected users will get are links to the files on the NAS. And these collaboration tools really do help you create a more conducive workflow within your business. Now, I'm going to wrap things up here because there are still lots of things that this NAS can do, and I've made dedicated videos on them and I've already used a lot of your time. But before we go, there's two things I want to do last. One, I'm going to open the surveillance application, because another popular area of the J series in the buyer's market is people that install a Synology J series NAS to set up cameras in their home or business environment. Maybe it's a small shop, maybe it's a camera around the front and the back of your house. Synology Surveillance Station is a business class surveillance app. It allows you to host multiple IP cameras and have a live feed via your web browser or the client app for your desktop, PC or Mac system, or mobile apps, and allow you to create security protocols and alerts where you will know if you've got intruders or more. There's even a home mode where you can connect your surveillance station to your mobile phone that will only record when your phone connected to the same Wi-Fi internet connection as your NAS breaks connection. So if you leave the house, once you're at a distance where your phone is no longer connected to the Wi-Fi, the NAS will start recording, therefore ensuring that you're never recorded when you're at the home, but the cameras will always kick in when you leave. Now, as we go through this, the second thing I want to show you will become apparent, because as I go through these settings, I want to see how the DS420j behaves and what the utilization is. In Surveillance Station, you may see I've not added any cameras yet. So the first thing we want to do, because we've got no cameras, is of course to add a camera. Luckily, I have a camera here in the studio, a Reolink RLC PoE camera. So for now, I'm going to click Add and add this new camera. You can do a quick setup or a complete. We're going to go complete. Click Next, and then click the spyglass to search your area network. If it's an official supported camera, it will appear here. Otherwise, click On Viv, and it will show you cameras that are accessible, but you can't use all of the features yet. And that's because of the brand, not because of Synology. It's found my camera, and it's entered all of its IP information. Next, I enter the login information, and then click test the connection. As you can see, it's found me and I'm here with the camera pointed at me. Ignore the big box. That is my new desk that's taken me about a year to put together. Click next, and then we can say what's the camera going to be filming in, what quality do we want to record, what frames per second and more. After that, we click next. We can say how we want it to record, when we want it to record, and where to. After that, we can then say when we want it to record. We can say we want it to be motion detection or fully recording at all times, or create customized alert patterns if we so choose. And you can just draw over these as you see fit. Very easy indeed. If we remove all of that, we'll click delete, remove what we've just created there, and then we'll do continuous recording throughout the entire time. We then click next, and there's our settings, and after that we click finish. And now it's adding our camera and our settings right now. On the other side of the room, I can see the camera rotating and adjusting its pan tilt zoom control for the Synology to take advantage of it. And while it does that, we can have a look at the utilization of the hardware while the camera sets up. If we minimize this screen, we'll be able to go into the live feed right now to see if our camera has been added. At the moment, our camera is still initializing for the very first time, with the camera license activating with the addition of this camera. At the moment, pan tilt zoom control is disabled until the camera is completely initialized, and we can see memory utilization has spiked quite dramatically, as well as the utilization being displayed here on the settings of surveillance station. As this goes on, we can now see the camera has been added. Sorry, the studio isn't completely finished setting up yet, but we can move the camera if we so choose and get it rotated. Look at all those boxes knocking around the room. Get that rotated, and there's me there. I'm going to wave right now. And hopefully on the screen recording software, this has been displayed. And again, we've got full control here. We can zoom if we so choose. We can do whatever we want to set this device up for the very first time. And it is that straightforward for adding cameras, with 2 camera licenses included inside this device, as well as the ability to add up to 15 cameras in surveillance station on this NAS. Memory utilization is spiking, but CPU utilization doesn't seem so bad. So the last thing we're going to do right now is we're going to create lots of apps running at once. What we want to see is how that affects the performance. So for now, I'm just going to start opening all of the apps one after the other just to see what the NAS does. So every one of these that we've installed, we're now going to open. Go through all of the settings here. Open the application service. Open. We've already got surveillance station open. We've got all kinds of stuff. Maybe open the control panel. And we're already starting to get some real sluggish behavior present itself, which shouldn't come as a surprise. And which is what I want to end this video on, really. What I want to talk about is simply what to expect from a J-series NAS. And quite simply, this is a budget solution. This is a NAS that's designed not to be low-end, but to give you general access to the features of DSM. And I hope this video has shown you that the DS420j can still pull its weight despite rather modest hardware. It's not the best, and there's definitely more powerful NASs out there, but you will have to spend a few £100 more on those Intel alternatives. But ultimately, I'm quite a big fan of the DS420j and what they've presented with such modest hardware. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, do let me know. And do let me know your thoughts and feelings on these devices going forward into 2020, or if you like these or want to hope for something more powerful. Do click subscribe to learn more, and of course I'll see you next time.